My name is Jessica Monroe, and at 32, I thought my life in Seattle was exactly where I wanted it to be: stable, fulfilling, grounded. I've been a school counselor at a Seattle elementary school for 8 years, helping kids navigate their toughest moments, building trust with them, watching them grow. My parents, Diane and Richard Monroe, live just 20 minutes away, and family has always been my anchor, or so I thought. That all changed one Saturday afternoon at a family barbecue when my older sister Amanda Keller accused me of hitting her 6-year-old son Tyler. When my own mother believed her over me, my world turned upside down. It was Memorial Day weekend, perfect weather for a backyard barbecue at my parents' house in West Seattle. I'd spent days planning it, coordinating with Mom to make sure everything was just right. I'd marinated chicken-prepped veggie skewers, baked a triple-layer chocolate cake for Tyler, because he loves anything with frosting. Amanda and Tyler were coming along with my best friend Heather Quinn, her husband Brandon, and our neighbors Justin and Megan Hayes, with their 5-year-old twins Kayla and Haley. Mom and Dad's backyard was the ideal spot, spacious with a wooden deck, a grassy area for the kids, and a new sprinkler system Dad had installed for summer fun. I'd even brought over extra towels and sunscreen, knowing the kids would get soaked. Everyone arrived by 2 in the afternoon. Heather and Brandon showed up with a fruit salad. Justin and Megan brought homemade lemonade, and Mom had her famous coleslaw ready. Amanda and Tyler were late as usual, rolling in at 3:30 with no explanation, just Amanda muttering something about traffic. Tyler clung to her side, quieter than usual, clutching a water gun I'd bought him last Christmas. I tried to catch his eye, offer a smile, but he looked away, which stung a little. Amanda's always been weird about me bonding with him, pulling him away if I got too close, dismissing my attempts to connect. I chalked it up to her being protective, maybe still bitter from her divorce 3 years ago. Her ex, Greg, left her for someone else, and she's been struggling as a freelance marketer ever since, barely scraping by. The barbecue was in full swing by 4. Dad manned the grill, flipping burgers and joking about his secret sauce. Mom chatted with Megan about her book club, while Heather and I set out desserts on the deck table. The kids were having a blast, Kayla and Haley squealing as they ran through the sprinkler, Tyler chasing them with his water gun. I kept an eye on them from the deck, noticing Tyler's aim getting a bit aggressive. He sprayed water straight into Haley's face, making her cry, then laughed when Kayla tripped trying to dodge him. Megan was distracted talking to Brandon, and Amanda was nowhere in sight, probably inside scrolling her phone as usual. I walked over to Tyler, kneeling down to his level, keeping my voice calm. "Hey, buddy, that water gun looks like a blast. You're winning out there." I noticed Haley got upset when you sprayed her face and Kayla tripped. They're a little younger, so let's aim at their feet instead. Okay? That way, everyone's having fun. Tyler scowled, gripping his water gun tighter. "They're being annoying," he mumbled. I smiled, resting a hand lightly on his shoulder to steer him away from the girls. "I get it. But you're the big kid here. You can show them how to play fair. Can you do that for me?" He shrugged, muttered whatever, and turned back to the sprinkler. I stood up, satisfied, and headed back to the deck to grab plates for the burgers. About 15 minutes later, I saw Amanda watching Tyler from across the yard, her eyes narrowed. She called him over, whispered something, then led him toward the side of the house, where Mom's garden shed sits out of sight from the deck. When they came back, Tyler was rubbing his arm, his face red, and Amanda looked tense, her jaw set. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe he'd gotten a splinter or tripped. But then Amanda marched straight to Mom, pulling her aside near the grill. I couldn't hear what they said, but Mom's face changed. Her smile vanished, replaced by a look of shock, then anger. She glanced at me, her eyes sharp, and my stomach twisted. Something was wrong. The barbecue continued, but the mood shifted. Mom barely spoke to me, busying herself with clearing plates, avoiding my attempts to help. "I've got it. Jessica," she snapped when I offered to carry the dessert tray. I tried to brush it off, focusing on the kids, but her coldness was impossible to ignore. Amanda left early with Tyler claiming he wasn't feeling well and didn't even say goodbye. The rest of the guests trickled out by 7, thanking us for a great time, oblivious to the tension. As I helped Dad clean up, I caught Mom staring at me from the kitchen window, her expression hard, almost accusing. I couldn't take it anymore. "Mom, what's going on?" I asked, stepping inside, wiping my hands on a towel. "You've been acting weird since Amanda left." She set a glass down hard on the counter, her lips tight. "Jessica, we need to talk about what you did to Tyler." My heart stopped. "What I did? What are you talking about?" She crossed her arms, her voice low but sharp. "Amanda told me you grabbed Tyler's arm hard when you thought no one was looking. He's got bruises, Jessica." "Bruises? He's terrified of you now." The words hit like a punch. I stepped back, my mind racing. "That's not true. I didn't grab him. I talked to him about playing nicely with the twins, that's it." I barely touched his shoulder. Mom shook her head, her eyes wet but unyielding. "Tyler told Amanda you hurt him. He's 6, Jessica. Why would he lie? And the bruises are real." Amanda showed me a photo. They look like fingerprints. I felt the room spin, my chest tightening. "Mom, you know me. I work with kids every day. I'd never hurt a child, especially Tyler. This is insane." But she just looked away, her voice breaking. "I don't know what to believe right now. Amanda's devastated and Tyler's scared. I need time to process this." I stood there frozen as she walked out of the kitchen, leaving me alone with the weight of her words. Dad came in, sensing the tension. "Jess, what's wrong?" I tried to explain, my voice shaking, but he just sighed. "Your mom's upset. Let's give her some space, we'll figure this out." But I couldn't let it go. Amanda's accusation was a lie, and Mom believing her over me, her own daughter, cut deeper than anything I'd ever felt. That night, I lay awake replaying the barbecue, Tyler's scowl, Amanda's whisper by the shed. Something wasn't right, and I was going to find out what. Little did I know, the truth was already captured, waiting to be uncovered. The morning after the barbecue, I woke up to a text from Mom, short, cold. Nothing like her usual warmth. "Jessica, we need to talk. Come to the house at 10. My stomach churned as I read it, the memory of her accusing stare from last night burning in my mind. I'd barely slept replaying Amanda's lie about me hurting Tyler, Mom's belief in her words, cutting deeper than the accusation itself. I got dressed, grabbed my keys, and drove to my parents' house, bracing myself for whatever was coming. When I walked in, Mom was at the kitchen table, her face set like stone, and Dad was hovering nearby, looking uncomfortable, avoiding my eyes. Before I could say anything, Mom slid a photo across the table. Tyler's arm marked with small dark bruises shaped like fingerprints. "Amanda sent me this," she said, her voice low, trembling with anger. "She took him to urgent care last night. The doctor says it's consistent with an adult gripping him hard." "Jessica, how could you?" I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room, my heart pounding as I stared at the photo. "Mom, I didn't do this. You have to believe me. I talked to Tyler about the twins, that's all, I swear. I'd never hurt him." But she shook her head, her eyes hard, unyielding. "Tyler told Amanda you grabbed him when he was playing with the water gun. He's scared of you now, my grandson, scared of my own daughter. I raised you better than this." Her words hit like a slap, and I stepped back, fighting tears, my voice shaking. "You raised me to tell the truth, and that's what I'm doing. I work with kids every day, I help them, protect them. Why would I hurt Tyler? Amanda's lying, and you're choosing her over me." Dad finally spoke, his voice soft, hesitant. "Jess, let's calm down. Maybe there's a misunderstanding." But Mom cut him off, her tone final. "There's no misunderstanding. Amanda's filing a report with Child Services. They'll be in touch." I drove home in a daze, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Child Services CPS was coming for me, a school counselor who'd spent years advocating for kids, reporting suspected abuse, working with families to keep them safe. The irony was suffocating, but the betrayal from Mom was worse. I called Heather as soon as I got home, my voice breaking as I told her everything: Amanda's accusation, the bruises, Mom's coldness. "Jess, this is crazy," Heather said, her tone sharp, furious. "Amanda's always been jealous of you, your job, your life, the way your parents lean on you. She's pulling something, I know it. You need to fight this." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me, her words sparking a flicker of resolve. "I will, but how? Mom's already made up her mind and CPS is involved. What if they believe Amanda?" 3 days later, the doorbell rang at 9 in the morning. Through the peephole, I saw a woman in a gray blazer holding a clipboard, an ID badge clipped to her lapel. My heart sank. I knew who this was. I opened the door, forcing a steady voice. "Hi, I'm Jessica Monroe." The woman gave a polite nod, her expression neutral but serious. "Good morning, I'm Susan Hartley from Child Protective Services. I'm here about a report involving Tyler Keller, your nephew." "May I come in?" I let her in, my mind racing as we sat in the living room. She opened her clipboard, pulling out a pen, her questions methodical, cutting. "Ms. Monroe, I'm investigating allegations that you physically harmed your nephew at a family gathering on May 25th. Can you walk me through what happened?" I explained everything: the barbecue, Tyler's rough play, my brief talk with him, the light touch on his shoulder. I was trying to keep the twins safe. I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. "I'd never hurt a child. It's the opposite of everything I stand for." Susan scribbled notes, her face unreadable, then looked up. "You're a school counselor, correct? So you're familiar with mandatory reporting laws?" I nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes. I've worked with CPS before. I've reported cases myself when I had to." "That's why this accusation is so devastating. It's not just false, it's personal." She raised an eyebrow, jotting something down. "I understand. The report includes photos of bruises on Tyler's arm documented by a medical professional. The child also named you as the person who caused them." Can you explain that? I felt a surge of anger mixed with fear, my hands clenching in my lap. "I can't explain it because it didn't happen. I talked to him for maybe 20 seconds. There was no grabbing, no force." "Amanda's claiming something that's impossible." Susan's expression didn't change, but she asked about my relationship with Amanda, with Tyler, with Mom. I was honest: Amanda's distance, her protectiveness, the way she'd always pushed me away from her son. But every question felt like a trap, like I was digging myself deeper. As Susan stood to leave, she handed me her card. "Ms. Monroe, I'll need to interview other witnesses. Your sister, your parents, possibly Tyler. You should not contact them directly while this investigation is ongoing. We'll schedule a follow-up soon." I nodded, my throat tight, watching her walk to her car. The moment the door closed, I sank onto the couch, my head in my hands, the weight of it all crashing down. CPS was investigating me, and Mom was on Amanda's side. I texted Heather, my fingers shaking. "CPS just left. This is real. I need help." She replied instantly. "I'm coming over. We're figuring this out together." Heather arrived within the hour, her laptop already open, her journalist instincts kicking in. "Jess, is there anything that can prove you didn't do this? Cameras, witnesses, anything?" I shook my head, frustrated, then paused. "Wait. Mom and Dad's house has security cameras. Dad installed them last year after some break-ins in the neighborhood. They cover the backyard, the deck, maybe even the shed." Heather's eyes lit up. "That's it. If those cameras were on, they could show exactly what happened or didn't happen. Can you get access?" I grabbed my phone, texting Dad to ask about the cameras, but he didn't reply right away. "He's probably with Mom," I said, my voice bitter. "She's probably telling him I'm a monster." As we waited, Heather scrolled through her phone, her brow furrowing. "Just look at this." She showed me a text thread Amanda had accidentally sent to a group chat with Heather in it, a message meant for someone else. "Make sure you back me up on this. Jessica's going to regret crossing me." My blood ran cold, the words sinking in. Amanda wasn't just lying, she was planning something bigger, and I was her target. That night after Heather left, I couldn't sit still. Amanda's text kept looping in my head, her words cold and calculated. Jessica's going to regret crossing me. It wasn't just a slip-up. It was proof she was orchestrating this, using her own son to tear me down. I needed answers, and the security cameras at my parents' house were my best shot. Dad finally texted back around 8, saying he'd left the camera login info on a sticky note in his office. Mom was asleep, so he didn't want to talk. I grabbed my keys, called Heather, and asked her to meet me there. "We're doing this now," I told her, my voice tight, adrenaline pumping. "I can't wait another day to see what those cameras caught." We got to my parents' house by 9, letting ourselves in with my spare key, moving quietly so we wouldn't wake Mom or Dad. The office was a small room off the living room, cluttered with Dad's old engineering books and a dusty desktop computer. I found the sticky note taped to the monitor, logged into the security system's cloud portal, and pulled up the footage from May 25th. My hands were shaking as I clicked through the camera views: front yard, driveway, deck, backyard, and one angled near the garden shed. "Start with the backyard," Heather urged, leaning over my shoulder. "That's where you talk to Tyler." I scrolled to around 4 in the afternoon, my heart racing as the footage loaded. There it was, me, walking over to Tyler by the sprinkler, kneeling down, talking calmly, my hand barely brushing his shoulder as I guided him away from the twins. The angle was perfect, showing every second of our 30-second exchange. Tyler didn't flinch, didn't cry. He just shrugged and kept playing, aiming his water gun at the ground like I'd asked. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding, relief flooding through me. "See?" I said, pointing at the screen. "No grabbing, no bruises, nothing." I told the truth. Heather squeezed my arm, her voice fierce. "This clears you, Jess, but we need to know where those bruises came from." I kept scrolling, my eyes glued to the backyard footage, watching the barbecue unfold. Dad flipping burgers, Mom laughing with Megan, the twins splashing in the sprinkler. Then, about 15 minutes after my talk with Tyler, I saw Amanda call him over. She whispered something, her expression hard, and led him toward the garden shed, out of sight from the deck. My stomach twisted. I remembered that moment, how Tyler came back, rubbing his arm. I switched to the shed camera, my fingers fumbling on the mouse, and found the timestamp. The footage wasn't perfect. The camera only caught the edge of the shed, but it was enough. Amanda was kneeling in front of Tyler, gripping his upper arm so tightly her knuckles were white, twisting the skin as he tried to pull away his face. Scrunched in pain. I gasped, my hand flying to my mouth, tears stinging my eyes. Heather cursed under her breath, her voice shaking. "She did it. She hurt him to frame you." But it got worse. The camera's microphone picked up Amanda's voice, low but clear, her words slicing through me like a knife. "Tyler, listen to me. You need to tell Grandma that Aunt Jessica grabbed your arm really hard and it hurt. That's why you have these marks. Okay, if you don't, we might have to move away, and you won't see Grandma or Grandpa anymore." Tyler's voice was small, confused, breaking my heart. "But she didn't hurt me, Mommy." Amanda's grip tightened, her tone sharp. "She did, and you need to say it. Do it for me, baby." I paused the footage, my hands trembling so badly I could barely click the mouse, anger and horror crashing over me. Heather grabbed my laptop, downloading the clips before I could even process it. "We're saving this multiple copies now. This isn't just about clearing your name, Jess. This is child abuse." I nodded, wiping my eyes, trying to focus through the rage. Amanda hadn't just lied. She'd hurt her own son, manipulated him, used his love for her to trap me. But something else in the footage caught my attention. As Amanda stood up, she muttered under her breath, barely audible, but the microphone caught it. "This is for what you did 20 years ago, Diane." I froze, replaying the clip, my mind racing. 20 years ago? What did Mom have to do with this? Heather heard it too, her eyes narrowing. "What's that about? Is Amanda holding some kind of grudge against your mom?" I didn't have an answer, but the words lit a fire in me. There was more to Amanda's plan than jealousy, something deeper, uglier. I saved the footage to my cloud drive, a USB stick, and emailed a copy to Heather, my hands steadier, now resolve taking over. "We're showing this to Susan Hartley," I said, my voice firm. "But not yet. I want Amanda and Mom in the room when it plays. They need to see it. No excuses. No denials." Heather nodded, her journalist instincts kicking in. "Smart. If you show it now, Amanda might twist it, claim it's fake. Wait for the CPS follow-up, make it public, undeniable." I agreed, but the thought of waiting, of carrying this truth alone, felt like a weight I could barely hold. I texted Susan Hartley the next morning, requesting that our follow-up meeting include Amanda and Mom. I have evidence that changes everything I told her over the phone, keeping my tone calm despite the storm inside me. She sounded skeptical, but agreed to arrange it, setting the meeting for Friday at her office. I didn't tell Mom or Amanda what I'd found. I couldn't risk Amanda finding out and spinning another lie. Instead, I called Heather again, needing her to keep me grounded. "I'm so angry," I admitted, my voice shaking. Not just at Amanda, but at Mom for believing her, for not even asking me. And Tyler, he's caught in the middle, hurting because of her. Heather listened, then said exactly what I needed to hear. "You're doing this for him, Jess, to protect him, to get him away from her lies. Hold on to that." By Thursday night, I was a mess of nerves, barely sleeping, the footage playing in my mind. Tyler's pained face, Amanda's cruel grip, her cryptic words about Mom. I burned a copy of the clips onto a second USB just in case, and tucked it into my purse. Friday was coming, and with it, the moment I'd show everyone the truth, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Amanda's muttering about 20 years ago was a clue to something bigger, something I wasn't ready for. Friday morning came too fast. My nerves frayed from 2 sleepless nights clutching the USB drive with the footage that would either save me or break everything apart. I dressed carefully, a navy blazer, white blouse, jeans, wanting to look calm, professional, even though my heart was pounding like I'd run a marathon. Heather drove me to the CPS office in downtown Seattle, her presence steadying me as I gripped the USB in my purse, replaying the plan in my head. Susan Hartley had agreed to have Amanda and Mom at the meeting, and I'd insisted Dad come too. He deserved to know the truth. As we walked into the sterile conference room with its long table and flickering fluorescent lights, Susan was already there, her clipboard ready, her expression unreadable. Amanda arrived next, her face a mask of forced concern. Tyler nowhere in sight, she'd left him with a sitter, claiming he was too traumatized. Mom and Dad followed, Mom's eyes avoiding mine, her lips tight, while Dad gave me a small, worried nod. Susan started the meeting, her voice formal, cutting through the tension. "We're here to discuss the allegations against Jessica Monroe regarding physical harm to Tyler Keller. I understand new evidence has come to light." I nodded, my throat dry, pulling out my laptop and the USB drive, my hands steady despite the storm inside me. "I have security footage from my parents' house that shows exactly what happened at the barbecue," I said, plugging the drive in, my voice firm. Amanda shifted in her seat, her eyes narrowing, but she stayed silent. Mom crossed her arms, her expression hard, like she was bracing for me to disappoint her again. I clicked play on the first clip, me, kneeling by Tyler, talking calmly, my hand lightly on his shoulder, him shrugging and playing on, no sign of pain or fear. The room was dead quiet, the only sound the faint hum of the laptop. "That's my interaction with Tyler," I said, looking straight at Susan. "No grabbing, no bruises, just a quick talk about playing nicely." Susan leaned forward, her eyes locked on the screen, scribbling notes. Amanda scoffed, her voice sharp. "That doesn't prove anything. The bruises could have happened later, somewhere else." I didn't flinch. My anger controlled, clicking to the second clip, the shed footage. The screen showed Amanda gripping Tyler's arm, twisting his skin, his face crumpling as he tried to pull away, her voice clear through the speakers. "Tell Grandma that Aunt Jessica grabbed your arm really hard and it hurt." Gasps filled the room. Dad's hand went to his mouth, Mom's face drained of color. Susan's pen froze mid-note. I let the clip play, Amanda's muttered words about 20 years ago, Diane echoing, my eyes locked on my sister as her composure cracked. When the clip ended, Amanda shot up, her voice shrill, desperate. That's fake. She edited it. Jessica's trying to frame me, can't you see? Susan raised a hand, her tone icy. Ms. Keller, the footage appears unaltered with verified timestamps. It can be authenticated if needed. What I see is you causing physical harm to your son and coaching him to lie. Amanda's eyes darted to Mom, pleading. Mom, you know me. I'd never hurt Tyler. Jessica's always been the favorite, twisting everything to make me look bad. But Mom didn't respond, her hands trembling, her gaze fixed on the table. Dad spoke, his voice low, shaking with anger. Amanda, stop. I saw you hurt your own son. How could you do this to Tyler, to Jessica? I turned to Mom, my voice breaking despite my effort to stay calm. You believed her over me, your own daughter, without even asking my side. Why? Mom's eyes met mine, wet, conflicted, and she whispered, I didn't want to lose her again. The words hit like a punch, confusion mixing with my anger. Lose her. What does that mean? Susan interjected, her voice firm. Ms. Monroe, let's focus on the evidence. Ms. Keller, this footage raises serious concerns about Tyler's safety in your care, and filing a false report is a legal offense. Amanda collapsed back into her chair, sobbing, her defiance crumbling. I just wanted you to see me, Mom, not her not perfect Jessica. It's always been about her ever since that summer 20 years ago. Susan stood, addressing the room. I'll be opening a new investigation into Ms. Keller's actions. Tyler will need to stay with a relative, likely your parents, while we assess his safety. Dad nodded, his face ashen, while Mom stayed silent, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. Susan turned to me, her tone softer. Ms. Monroe, this footage clears you of the allegations. I'll document that, and you'll receive a formal letter. I nodded, relief washing over me, but it was tainted by the ache of Mom's silence, Amanda's breakdown, and the mystery of 20 years ago. As Susan gathered her things, she asked Amanda to stay for a private statement, directing the rest of us to wait outside. In the hallway, Dad pulled me into a hug, his voice thick. Jess, I'm so sorry, I should have spoken up sooner. I hugged him back, tears stinging my eyes, but my focus was on Mom, standing a few feet away, staring at the floor. Mom, talk to me, I said, stepping closer, my voice raw. What happened 20 years ago? Why is Amanda so angry at you, at me? She shook her head, her voice barely audible. It was a mistake. I thought I was protecting her, but I hurt her instead. I can't talk about it now. Her words left me reeling, a mix of frustration and pain tightening my chest. Before I could press her, Heather touched my arm, her voice low. Give her time, Jess. She's starting to see the truth, but she's not ready. As we left the CPS office, Amanda still inside with Susan, I felt a strange mix of vindication and emptiness. The footage had saved my reputation, but it couldn't erase the betrayal, Amanda's cruelty, Mom's blind trust in her, the damage done to Tyler. Dad drove Mom home, promising to check on Tyler, who was with his sitter. Heather offered to stay with me, but I needed to be alone to process the weight of what had happened, what I'd learned. As I got into my car, my phone buzzed, a text from Mom, just 3 words, I'm so sorry. I stared at it, my heart twisting, unsure if those words could ever bridge the gap between us or what her secret from 20 years ago meant for our family. By Sunday, I couldn't wait any longer. I drove to my parents' house. My stomach knotted, determined to get answers. Mom opened the door, her face pale, eyes red-rimmed like she hadn't slept since Friday. Dad was in the living room holding a coffee mug, his expression weary but warm when he saw me. Jess, I'm glad you're here, he said, standing to hug me, his voice thick. Mom gestured to the couch, her hands trembling, and we sat, the silence heavy, until I broke it. Mom, you owe me the truth. What happened 20 years ago, and why did Amanda think hurting Tyler would fix it? Mom took a shaky breath, her eyes fixed on her hands, and started talking, her voice low, halting like each word cost her. When you were 12 and Amanda was 15, she got in trouble. Serious trouble. She was caught shoplifting at a mall, but it wasn't just her. Her friends were stealing too, and one had drugs. The police called me, and I was terrified she'd ruin her life. I blamed her, Jess. I told her she was a disappointment, that she'd shamed our family. But I was wrong. Her friends had pressured her, and she didn't know about the drugs. I never apologized, never made it right, and she carried that hurt for years. I sat back, stunned, pieces clicking into place. Amanda's bitterness, her need to prove herself, her resentment toward me. So she framed me to get back at you. I asked, my voice, sharp anger flaring. Mom nodded, tears spilling over. I favored you after that. You were easier, Jess, always responsible. Amanda felt invisible, and I let her. The truth hurt raw and jagged, but it explained so much. Amanda's cruelty wasn't just jealousy, it was a wound festering for decades, aimed at both me and Mom. I wanted to scream at her for letting it get this far, for believing Amanda's lie without questioning, but her guilt was palpable. Her shoulders slumped like she was carrying the weight of every mistake. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, softer now, pain mixing with exhaustion. I could have helped, or at least understood. Mom shook her head, her voice breaking. I was ashamed. I thought I could fix it by giving Amanda everything she asked for, like money support. I didn't see how far she'd go. Dad reached for her hand, his voice steady. We both failed you, Jess and Tyler. We're making it right now. That afternoon we talked for hours, raw, messy, tearful, laying bare years of unspoken hurts. Mom apologized again, not just for believing Amanda, but for the years she'd let Amanda's pain overshadow me. I didn't forgive her right away. The betrayal still stung sharp and real, but I saw her trying, and that was a start. By the time I left, we'd agreed to family therapy, a way to rebuild what was broken, to make sure Tyler wouldn't carry the same scars. Susan Hartley called the next day, her tone professional, but warm, confirming I was fully cleared, a letter was on its way, and my job was safe. Amanda, though, faced serious consequences, charges for filing a false report and child endangerment, with a court-ordered psychological evaluation and supervised visitation only if she completed therapy. Tyler was staying with Mom and Dad, thriving under their care, his laughter echoing when I visited, a reminder of why I'd fought so hard. A week later, I met Tyler at my parents' house, his therapist there to guide us, a kind woman named Dr. Lisa Carver, who said Tyler needed to know I wasn't angry, that he wasn't to blame. He sat across from me, clutching a toy car, his eyes wary, until I spoke. Tyler, I know your mom told you to say I hurt you. That wasn't your fault, okay? I'm not mad, and I'm here for you always. He nodded, his voice small. I didn't want to lie, Aunt Jess. I hugged him, tears falling, feeling the weight of his trust, fragile but real. That moment healed something in me, a piece of the pain Amanda's lie had caused. Amanda sent me a letter a month later, handwritten, shaky, no apology, just excuses, blaming Mom, me, her ex, everyone but herself. I didn't respond. She needed to face her choices, and I needed to protect my peace. Mom and I started therapy with Dr. Carver, hard sessions where we dug into guilt, favoritism, and the mistakes that had fractured our family. It wasn't perfect. Some days I left angry, others hopeful, but we were talking, really talking, for the first time in years. Dad stepped up too, cooking dinners for Tyler, driving him to soccer, rebuilding the stability Amanda had shattered. Heather was my rock through it all, reminding me I'd survived, that I'd fought for the truth, and won. 6 months after the barbecue, I sat in my parents' backyard, not for a party, just a quiet dinner with Mom, Dad, Tyler, and Heather. Tyler ran around with a new water gun, laughing, no trace of the fear he'd carried before. Mom smiled at him, then at me, her eyes softer, like she was seeing me anew. I felt something I hadn't in months, peace, fragile but real, like a wound slowly healing. The scars were there. Amanda's betrayal, Mom's doubt, Tyler's pain, but we were choosing to move forward, to build something stronger. I'd learned the truth doesn't just set you free, it forces you to face what's broken, to decide what's worth saving. For me, it was Tyler, my parents, the family we could still be. If you've ever faced a betrayal that tested your family, I'd love to hear your story. Drop it in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button if this resonated with you and share this with someone who needs to know the truth. Always comes out no matter how deep the lies run. Thanks for listening to my journey. It's been a wild ride, but I'm still standing.